Jai Sai Ram, Sri Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 20, Part 2. Kaka's maid servant. On fully believing in Baba's words, he left Shiradi and came to Vile Parle, a suburb in Bombay, and stayed with Kaka Sahib Dikshit. There, the next day, when Dasganu was enjoying his morning nap, some say when he was engaged in worship, he heard a poor girl singing a beautiful song in clear and melodious tones. The subject matter of the song was a crimson color saree. How nice it was, how fine was its embroidery, how beautiful were its ends and borders, etc. He liked the song so much that he came out and saw that it was being sung by a young girl, the sister of Namya, who was a servant of Kaka Sahib. The girl was cleaning vessels and had only a torn rag on her person. On seeing her impoverished condition and her jovial temperament, Dasganu felt pity for her, and when Rao Bahadur M.B. Pradhan next day gave him a pair of dhotars, he requested him to give a saree to the poor little girl also. Rao Bahadur bought a good chirdi, that is a small saree, and presented it to her. Like a starving person getting luckily good dishes to eat, her joy knew no bounds. The next day she wore the new saree, and out of great joy and merriment world danced round and played fagudi with other girls and excelled them all. The day following, she kept the new saree in her box at home and came with the old and torn rags. But she looked as merry as she did the previous day. On seeing this, Dasganu's pity was transformed into admiration. He thought that the girl, being poor, had to wear a torn rag, but now she had a new saree which she kept in reserve, and putting on her old rag, strutted herself, showing no trace of sorrow or dejection. Thus he realized that all our beings of pain and pleasure depend upon the attitude of our mind. On thinking deeply over this incident, he realized that a man ought to enjoy whatever God has bestowed on him in the form of conviction that he besets everything from behind and before and on all sides, and that whatever is bestowed on him by God must be for his good. In this particular case, the impoverished condition of the poor girl, her torn rag, and the new saree, the donor and the dance and the acceptance were all parts of the Lord and pervaded by him. Hence, Dasganu got a practical demonstration of the lesson of the Upanishad, the lesson of contentment with one's own lot, in the belief that whatever happens is ordained by God and is ultimately good for us. Unique method of teaching. From the above incident, the readers will see that Baba's method was unique and varied. Though Baba never left Shirdi, he sent some people to Machindra Ghat, some to Kolhapur or Sholapur for practicing sadhanas. To some he appeared in his usual form, to some he appeared in waking or dreaming state, or day and night, and satisfied their desires. It is impossible to describe all his methods that Baba used in imparting instructions to his bhaktas. In this particular case, he sent Dasganu to Vile Parle, where he got his problem solved through the maid servant. To those who say that it was not necessary to send Dasganu outside and that Baba could have personally taught him, we say that Baba followed the right or the best course, or how else could Dasganu would have learnt a great lesson that the poor maid servant and her saree were pervaded by the Lord. Now we close this chapter with another beautiful extract about this Upanishad. The ethics of Ishavasya Upanishad. One of the main features of the Ishavasya Upanishad is the ethical advice it offers, and it is interesting to note that the ethics of the Upanishad are definitely based upon the metaphysical position advanced in it. The very opening words of the Upanishad tells us God pervades everything. As a corollary from this metaphysical position, the ethical advice it offers is that a man ought to enjoy whatever God bestows on him in the firm belief that as he pervades everything, whatever is bestowed on him by God must be good. It follows naturally that the Upanishad should forbid us from coveting another man's property. In fact, we are fittingly taught here a lesson of contentment with one's own lot, in the belief that whatever happens, it is divinely ordained and it is hence good for us. Another moral advice is that man must spend his lifetime always in doing action, specifically the karmas enjoined in the Shastras, in a mood of believing resignation to his will. Inactivity, according to the Upanishad, would be the canker of the soul. It is only when a man spends his lifetime on doing actions in this manner that he can hope to attain the ideal of Naishkarmya. Finally, the text goes on to say that a man who sees all beings in the self and sees the self as existing in all beings, in fact, for whom all beings and everything that exists have become the self, how can such a man suffer infatuation? What ground would such a man have for grief? Slothfulness, infatuation, and grief verily proceed from our not being able to see the Atman in all things. But a man who realizes the oneness of all things, for whom everything has become the self, must ipso facto cease to be affected by the common foibles of humanity. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. Jai Sai Ram.